cocinando en el laboratorio. Yo vine del lodo, ahora quieren fotos. Y vamos por todo, cocinando en el lab.
Yo, what's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the GMRT experience. I don't know what episode this is. I need to stop saying the episode numbers because we just been recording the episodes randomly. But welcome, guys. We're excited to have you back. Today's going to be an interesting episode because first time we had two people on the podcast, and first time that we have what I will say a power couple in the house. So welcome, guys. Introduce yourself. Just you're in our world now, so people want to know about you guys. So welcome.
Well, hey everyone. My name is Nathan Bird, and I've got beside me my lovely wife Lacey Bird. I'll let you do what you do best.
Yeah. Hey, Lacey Bird here. How would you like me to introduce myself?
Just a little bit of who you are, what you do, and that way people, like, as we go through this conversation, people can start, oh, that makes sense, connecting some dots.
Yeah, so first of all, we've been married. This year is our 10-year anniversary, actually, and we're very big on relationship quality and building a thriving relationship, and I'm sure we'll go into that a little bit more. I'm also an artist, a fellow artist, and a business owner. I have a fitness company online, memberships, e-products, and physical products, shipping all out over the country, and entrepreneur, full-time student, working on my PhD in psychology.
So good.
Yeah, and as far as things that I do, and I always say that we do because, you know, being married for 10 years, you start to mesh everything you do together. But, you know, I do have some specific things that I enjoy, and that is putting on events, bringing together communities, and helping to inspire others to really grasp what they have within themselves, and whether that's to be better in business, whether that's to be better in their health or their relationships. That's why events can be really powerful, because you have a stage you can speak on, and then you're collaborating amongst a lot of different people. So that's what we do, and we're just getting better at it.
So good. Before, when I was prepping for this episode earlier today, I was trying to remember where I met you. I know the first time I actually talked to you guys was at Cooperative in Orem, but that was, how did we connect it? Like, how did we, like, I was trying to remember, how do we know each other? Was it from church, or that was the first time that we met?
Yeah.
Was it? We saw you at church, and then we saw you in some of the networking
in the
groups,
cooperative, yes.
So good, so good.
Yeah.
So you're saying you guys been married for 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
As this, I guess let's just jump right into it.
Yep.
So you've been married 10 years. You guys are both running a business. This is, and honestly, this is something that I always wonder with couples that are running businesses. You know, how do you manage that dynamic? Because, like I think about myself, and I imagine if I had another of myself, I would be like, whoa. So you guys are married and running a business together.
Yeah.
Multiple.
Several businesses.
Please, give me some game.
So let me just preface this with, we didn't start off where we're at now, right? Yes. We actually, when you have two very driven personalities, two very entrepreneurial personalities that are creative and very goal-oriented, like we're both achievers, and when you achieve stuff, right? When you bring that into one relationship, all of a sudden in marriage, you have an additional person steering the ship, right? And you're also now having to bring them into the fold as far as what are our goals, right? Mm-hmm. So it's no longer just like, oh, this is what I'm going to do. This is what my goals are. And that really, we butted heads a lot in the beginning, like a lot. And we were actually separated for 1.5 years. And we went through tons of struggles. But I would say in the last probably like 4 years or so, we've really, even more so, been growing together. And one of the most impactful things I think that we've learned personally is instead of fighting face to face, because so many couples, they spend all their energy fighting face to face. They're trying to, like, I'm trying to make him see it the way that I see it, and and he's trying to make me do things the way that he would do them, right? And we're not honoring the differences. And when we start fighting shoulder to shoulder against the real issues and the real hurdles that we have to tackle, we're 10 times stronger, right? Because we're actually using our strengths together rather than against each other, where I think so many quote unquote power couples, right? They're two very powerful individual people, but they spend a lot of their effort, time, and energy fighting each other inside the house. So when they're outside the house, they're not able to get a whole lot done.
We started getting a lot clearer on our visions together and how we were going to utilize each other's strengths, and really understanding each other's strengths from a very analytical standpoint, but also being able to place that into the construct of running a business and an organization. That was where we started to really align. It was vision first, and then it was also from a personal standpoint, being able to understand and respect each other for what we can bring to the table. And it wasn't just, hey, listen, you don't do this very well. You just don't do that very well. So get out of here, basically. And that can really hurt a relationship just because it's really detrimental, So we've gone through our ups and downs, and just like a scar, if you just keep persevering, it's going to grow a lot stronger. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we've been through our scars, and we really just embrace that to continue to grow forward.
So another question with that is like, so you're both running your business.
Mm-hmm.
Are there like combining each other? Are you telling Nathan, hey, do this, and you're telling her do that, and then is that how the dynamic works?
Yes. Okay, so for example, just recently I shared with her a lot of business plans, a lot of various ideas via Google Docs, and it was just like an opening of the floodgates of everything that I've been building, which in the past I hadn't been so open, because it was like, oh, this is my stuff, like I'm just building this whole thing, and what is she really going to do with it? Well, as soon as I start to align with, hey, listen, I need help. Like, I need help, and I want to share with you some visions that I see that may be able to impact our family on a large scale. Can you help me? And I know what her skill sets are. It's very organizational. She's like very goal oriented, but it takes time for me to be patient, to understand and analyze and listen and see what she has for me, and then vice versa. So anything to say about that?
Yeah, actually. So one of the things kind of in the past, and to know this about us, so Nate is so good at seeing the like big picture. He's like a chess player. He like sees 5 moves ahead of where he's at right now. And he sees kind of the vision of how, like, okay, we have this, we have this, we have this, and then they all kind of flow together. Whereas my strengths and my kind of mindset is very much like, I need a goal. Like, I need a specific goal that I can reverse engineer into a very direct action that I can take right now, and I have a timeline and I know when I will hit that goal. In the past, how that has kind of been a real struggle is because I would personally get so annoyed with Nate because he would be like talking all these big things, and I'm like, but what are you going to do right now to actually make that happen? And then I would get so frustrated about it because I'm like, you're not actually turning those into steps, right? And I felt super convicted a while back of like, man, if he's going to accomplish those things, you were put in his life to help him accomplish those.
Wow.
Rather than just sitting back and like waiting for him
Wow.
to prove himself that he can do it. And you're sitting there kind of skeptical, waiting for him to fail in a sense.
Wow.
Instead of that,
That's
being
powerful.
like, oh, I actually have the skill set and the strengths to really be able to take what he's saying, reverse engineer it, turn it into action steps and systems that we can make sure we are moving towards that very concisely. And that's how I work. And so it was a place of coming together and actually, instead of, and I think this is so important, because instead of me waiting for him to do something before I changed the way that I was acting, I stopped myself, I slowed myself down, and instead of getting irritated when he would talk about these things, I started to get more curious, and I started to ask him, like, what are, and that's where he's saying, he opened it all up to me, and he was like, this is what I want to accomplish, this is what we're trying to do, this is what I'm seeing. And I said, great, I am all in that with you, let's do it, as long as you can honor that this is where I'm strong, right?
So good.
And so it was having those open conversations, but first I had to address my role in that. And I think that's really important, because so often in relationships we want the other person to change something first and then we'll change, but the reality is if you want a different reaction, you have to change your actions.
That's a really good, that's powerful, what you just said right there. And I'm going to tell you this because I've recently started my own men's group, Mastermind. And what I've noticed, the only reason why I started it is because I wanted to talk to people, you know, like, and I've realized this, especially as I'm walking this path with God. A lot of young men entrepreneurs are single and don't have a spouse. We get caught up in what's not even worth it, like that game, you know. And what you just said right there, I'm like, dude, if I had that. So I just want to give you props and props to you, because what you guys are doing, it's powerful, very powerful. And here's the other thing: I also meet couples and they ain't doing nothing. One's trying to get a goal, the other one was not doing anything, or neither of them are doing something. I'm like, bro, why don't you guys just combine power and then just take over the world?
Yeah.
So it's so good. One question that I have for you, Nathan, is because I know you're always running your events. You have like networking events, masterminds, all that cool stuff. And I mean, I think I know a reason, but I want to know, what's the purpose when you are throwing these events? Like, what's your vision when you're like, okay, I'm gonna get all these people in this room? What's the vision that goes behind that thought
Number
process?
one is community, and it's focused on relational development. That is always the case. And then from there, it depends on the objectives that we're trying to accomplish. So, for example, the Breakfast Palooza, which is an event that we host, which is for entrepreneurs to help them be inspired, number one, because as entrepreneurs, we go through difficult times where we can, for example, this next one we're doing, it's all about our mindset and how we can overcome thoughts of worth, whether we are not worthy, because as we start to scale a business, as we start to see some success, there's something called imposter syndrome, as you know, as I know, as everyone knows out there that has tried and tried to build something. So that's one specific, reason why. So it's relational development, and then there's initiatives that we are putting together so then we can impact people at scale. And that's why events are so important. Another one is with business owners who want to learn how to buy and sell companies, and there's a lot to that. So
What's that one called?
AquaCon. So It's just acquisition conference. And, that is something that I've started because, number one, I saw some different parts of that industry that were a little boring to me, because there were some financial professionals who weren't as exciting, really, right? So that's why I like doing events. But at the end of the day, it's really about relationships, and then there's education that can be given to people while there.
So good. So that ties into my next question. which I want you to jump on this one because you're out there building, the relationships. You're in these circles. And I rely a lot in my circle. Like I'm very cautious on who I allow into my life, because I need to be very aware of that. I got employees, and if my personal life goes to shit, my business is gonna. So I need good people to tell me, hey, stop. So you're building the circles. Do you kind of like help? Like, hey, I don't think that guy is good, or do you help him out with that? Like, hey, maybe like this shouldn't go that way. Like, I want you guys just to kind of talk about that a little bit.
Yeah.
That dynamic.
Yeah. So just to start with, my radar for people is way stronger, I feel, than his, in the sense that I have a lot of history in my past of being very like on the dark side of humanity, and so I would say for many years that really jaded me. So I would look at people through that lens of like, oh, the red flags, and Nate has always been so much more like, oh, we're here to be a positive impact for that person, right? And I would say over the last several years, the more of my own healing that I've done and the more confident I've become in myself, I've definitely started shifting that of like yes, there's definitely energy. There's people that are takers. There's people, and that's where boundaries come in. But I wouldn't say that there's anybody that if they're seeking, like we like to be a lighthouse, not a clubhouse, where we're grounded and strong in who we are, and our inner circle is tight, and the people that we're actually doing fellowship with on like a daily basis, and we're like going through our hardships with, those people are trusted. But I would say there's not anybody that can't be in our circle, in a sense that like we want to be a positive impact, and anyways, if that kind of answers it.
Yeah, and secondly, to where when we were talking about how we're merging our skill sets and talents, the organization specialist here is helping with making sure that we hit numbers, and we say, we hit goals for specifics on the different events, right? So like sponsors, attendees, and what she has really stepped up to. And this is cool because in the past it wasn't like this. It was just like, hey, good luck with your event, Nate. And I'm like, golly, this is a lot of work, but man, I'm gonna do it because I just love people, And then I would just tell Lacey, like, just show up, Whereas now she's like, no, let's make it really good. Like, let's make it like the best one you've done before. Let's make sure that we have our metrics down. And for me, I'm so goal oriented. So when I see numbers, I just turn into a machine. It's just like, oh, gonna hit the number. I'm into basketball a lot. Like I just like trained this morning, right? So I shot hundreds of shots, and it's just the same thing, repetition. But anyway, yeah, that's one way she helps as well, as we are starting to merge this, and I'm okay with that. I'm like really okay with her just stepping up in that role because that's what she does so well.
So good.
And what I do so well is just bring together community, understand each person that comes, and then give them the support, the connections that they want and need.
So good. You guys are like really like connected. Like you can tell, like, okay, like it's like, like you don't have to talk. Like you know. So that's really good, especially for you guys that are out there listening that, let's say you are married or you have a girlfriend, whatever, like this is kind of what you want. That's the flow, especially for guys. Like, because now that we just had a 15-minute conversation right now, and I'm more like you. Like you're explaining it, and I'm like Nate. Like literally, I'm the visionary. And like that's why I had to bring somebody like I don't have a girlfriend or a wife, but I had to bring somebody from the outside and be like, okay, let's put order on this, because this vision needs to be on the whiteboard now. Like Let's hit this. This is going to turn like this. Okay, I'll talk to that guy. I'll send that text. And we've been seeing a lot of breakthroughs in just 4 weeks of hiring this coach. And it's powerful, man. It's been like, wow, like I can take over the world.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing, and this is just like...
Let me double check.
Yeah.
Keep going, bro. Awesome. Yeah. Keep going.
Yeah, so the biggest thing with any scenario in any relationship is really you check yourself and you ask yourself, am I willing to grow? Mm-hmm. And then you start putting definitions on your willingness to grow. And then if you are holding yourself back, or your subconscious, or previous experiences even from childhood, and I want you to actually grab this, Lacey, because I know she speaks so highly about this. But really, it's like growth mindset, fixed mindset, right? And you have to be humble, and that's why as business owners we have to look at ego and what feeds that. So pride is really a terrible thing, and if you can't get rid of it in business, then you won't be able to get into that flow like you're talking about. But yeah, touch on that real quick. You're really good at doing that.
Which part?
Flow, but also understanding of like when you're younger, your subconscious plays a factor in how you can change.
So I do a lot of studying in behavioral psychology, why we do what we do, the actions, right? So 97% of our daily actions as adults, we are on autopilot. We are reacting to our environment in a preconditioned way. We've already made decisions about things like in a split second, and 90% of that was created before we were even 7. So when you have these beliefs about things, when you have beliefs about yourself, when you have, and the biggest thing too is during that time in your life, when you're a child, you're a blank canvas, right? Your nervous system's still being formed, your brain is still being formed, and when you have things happen, like very big things happen, right? It's kind of in there as a scar. It's in there, it's in your nervous system as a scar, it's in your brain as a scar, and so you start to see through those filters. And if you don't take the time, and I see this so much in entrepreneurs because it's what makes them so successful and drive so hard, is like running away from something that they don't want, right? So if they experience poverty, if they experience brokenness, if they experience any of these negative things, they're so hell-bent on not having that in their future, right? So they are willing to sacrifice whatever it takes. They're going to work hard for it. But what happens is you have a lot of these high performers as adults that have all this underlying conditioning that isn't necessarily positive, right? They see themselves through a lens of, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, I need to be successful in order to be loved, I need to, right? I need all these things, so they're striving. And when you bring that into a marriage, when you bring your preconditioning into a marriage, you already have so many different hurdles that you're going over in a relationship. Like trying to mold 2 separate lives together, I don't think people actually like think that through like as much as they should. It's all about getting to the wedding and then what? But the reality is you're now like, I mean, we see each other's best, we see each other's worst, right? And like early on in our relationship, we faced that a lot of, so I grew up in and out of foster homes. I was orphaned really young. I was trafficked when I was young. I dealt with a lot of physical, mental, verbal abuse. I was in multiple foster homes growing up. Like my entire life would change overnight multiple times. And so that creates, and if you think about what I just shared about you're being conditioned, like you're being formed through that, right? So that's very different conditioning than someone who grew up in a very tight-knit, loving family that was, constantly doing outreach to help other people, and just very different. So when we went through stressors, when we went through just anything, right? Like we responded very differently. And so one of the biggest things that I think you wanted me to touch on was just that if you don't, like so many couples, they want to learn the tools. Like, how do we communicate? How do we do all these things? But if you don't understand yourself, you can't properly communicate your needs to your partner. And secondly, if you don't know how to listen and receive, and I don't just mean like listen waiting to respond, I mean actually like seeking to understand where that person is at, what they're experiencing, why they're feeling the way that they're feeling, then you really don't have a relationship, right? Because you're playing a role, and it's a very surface level role. And I see that so much in couples is there's no authenticity. They're still just performing for each other. They're still just orbiting around each other, and they're trying to keep the peace. So they know what they need to do and who they need to be in order to, keep their partner close enough, but not too close, right?
Wow.
And vice versa. So when you really get to that level of authenticity where we can like share our brokenness, we can share our vulnerable, like it builds something a lot more special.
That was really good. Wow.
Well, to her point, and I'll make this quick, but it's in essence, there's shame and trauma that we have in life, and there's a definition of each of those. And the things that you go through, really enjoy this, but it's having an understanding of the walls that we're creating around our heart, and those walls are trauma that we constantly go through, right? So we like have one traumatic experience, we have a shame, trauma, and it continues to create multiple walls that are around our heart. So which then allow us to not actually share openly with others, to be authentic. So as soon as we start to release that authenticity, that's why we're able to then truly connect with somebody, right? But just like what she's saying, we're not able to.
Let me just add one more thing to that.
Yeah.
So you go through traumatic experiences that rock your belief system in yourself, right? So you go through something and it changes your perception of the world. That's what trauma is it changes your belief system, it changes your self-perception. And then what comes from that is shame. So shame is what causes us to look at, oh, this person responded this way when I shared this about myself. So like, I'm never going to share that part of me again to anybody. And you start putting walls up around yourself. So you're limiting what people actually see of you. And I can tell you, like 4 years ago, there's probably like 30 different versions of me out there based on who I was around, because I was conditioned to be a chameleon, because my core wound was abandonment, right? And my deepest need and desire is connection. So what I had been conditioned to do was basically chameleonize myself to whoever was around me to be accepted. But at the end of the day, I didn't know who I was, right? And I think so many people go through that. But at the end of the day, like if you can just be an open book and like go through that healing, you'll realize that's what connects you to others. It's not being perfect and acting like you have it all together. It's being able to be open and real and vulnerable with each other. And you'll realize pretty much everybody around you is going through some serious stuff.
That's been the biggest thing for me this year. As walking this path with God and all that stuff, is realizing that, holy crap, like everybody's going through something.
Yeah.
It's like it's not just me.
Mm-hmm.
So okay, let's be better. And it's changed my business, my personal life. Like, it changed a lot of things. Mm-hmm. And it actually has made the ride more enjoyable. Mm. Even though when days are hard, I'm like, hey, things are good.
Mm-hmm. We're searching for a purpose, identity, and peace. Those are, I don't know, those three things. And, I mean, you could mix and match in the order, but those are the three things that we're searching for, in essence.
Good. So good. So I wanted to ask you guys, because obviously we go to the same church together, but were you guys always Christians? Like, well, what's the deal? Like, Awaken, how did you even found that church? Like, tell me the story, because I have my own story. How I landed to Awaken Church last year. It's a crazy story, but I kind of wanted to see what's you guys' story.
Yeah, so we have different stories, so I'll just share mine first, and then Nate can, but I didn't grow up around church. I mean, I just kind of shared how I grew up, and it was very much survival state all the time. I wasn't exposed to religion, faith, really anything outside of just get through to tomorrow kind of mentality. And I found myself naturally searching at 16 for, like, I just felt like a natural searching for something more, right? And that's when I personally, was first exposed. I went to like a teen conference with, some different Christian artists, and that was the first time that I felt something. Like I felt something other than anxiety. That was the first time in my life I felt something other than anxiety. And I just felt so much peace, and I remember that. And then I went back home, and I just remember the guy that I was dating at the time, which shortly after I married, and I remember kind of going back home and being like, okay, I want to start going to church now. And he was like, oh, okay, well, I go to a Jehovah's Witness church. And I didn't know there's so many different types of religion. Like I was just like, yeah, okay, like Christian, it's all the same, right? Well, it's not. And so I went and started doing that, and I just felt so triggered all the time. It just felt very oppressive to women. It felt very misogynistic. It felt like I was just like, this is not what I experienced at this concert, where everybody was so open and loving and caring. And this was like it felt very performance based. It felt very legalistic. And so it caused me to just like, I don't want anything to do with this, right? Well, so I was very turned off by religion at that point, because I tried it and it was a no-go, okay? And so fast forward to when I met Nate, he had mentioned something about like his faith is really important to him, and he'll share his story in a second. But I was just like, oh, another one of those. Like, okay. And I ended up reaching out to his friend, because this is still when we had just first met, and I reached out to his friend, and I was like, hey, can I go to church with you? But like, don't say anything to Nate, because I don't want him to know, and like, I'm not trying to do it for him. I just want to see what this is all about, And so I went to this church in Portland, Oregon, and it was like it was so ethnically diverse. Like, it was amazing. It was the most energetic, like, just best church, right? And I was like, oh, okay, this is more of what I'm talking about. And so we went there for a little bit, and still at that point, and this is 11 years ago, still at that point, I kept my cards very close to me. Like, I still wouldn't say that I had a relationship with God at that point. It was like, these people are safe, so I can be in this, like, I'm going to place myself here because these are safe people, And for several years, it was just for that reason, to be like in a safe, predictable situation. Yet it wasn't until 8 years ago when we were separated, and I actually like hit my rock bottom mentally, emotionally, physically, and I was just running away from everything, all the pain in my life, all the brokenness, just trying to pretend like I had it all together on the outside, and I just came crumbling down. And it was actually, right when we got back together, and that was part of our story, after being separated for almost a year and a half, that I really had an encounter with God, and I was just like, I don't want to keep doing this myself, And even over the last 8 years, it's still been just this like slow process of me like loosening the grip on the steering wheel of my own life. And I would say, kind of fast forward to ending up at Awaken, we've always gone to non-denominational Christian churches all over the country, actually. And it's definitely, for me, it's been a process of making it very personal, a personal relationship. And I would say most people that I've literally ever met grew up with some form of religion or something, even if they don't still acknowledge it or it's not still part of their life. Like, they grew up with something. For me, it's almost like I have to put on it's almost like clothing that I'm putting on, right? Like it's not part of me. Like the spiritual side of me, it doesn't feel like it's part of me. It feels like I have to be very intentional about it, you know?
So good.
Just being honest, but it's not like a conditioning, like, oh, okay, like remember when you're in a hard time, like God's got you. I'm like, I have to like go in 27 circles and start spiraling downhill before I'm like, oh yeah, go back to what I know, and like it just always brings me back and grounds me.
So good.
Yeah, my upbringing is pretty simple. My grandfather was a pastor, and he had started a missionary establishment. We had a nonprofit organization. There was like 4 different homes in 4 different states that my family would like move around, to these different places. And ever since I was a kid, I saw that our family was on this earth to serve others, and it was just literally the DNA that was injected into us. Then of course, as you grow older, then you start to, for me it was like, oh, God's always going to be there, so I'll just whiling out for a bit, and then, oh, God's here for me, we're good. And it's an interesting dynamic, because I feel like a lot of people that were raised in the church or like in quote unquote Christian environments or religion, they can have this moment where it's like, no, dude, like I'm in control of my life. Like, what is God? Well, it's not what is God going to do. It's just God's always going to be there. Like I know for a fact that a lot of people that have been raised in the church, they have that same mentality. But then it isn't until they literally hit their rock bottom that they're super humble and they have to surrender. And that's where Lacey and I have, we both went through certain things within our relationship, and that's actually a blessing. Really, you could say it's a blessing. It's definitely not a curse, but it was certainly a blessing at the time when we were separated. Then we got back together, but it was through that surrender that we doubled down on our faith. And then even after that, it was like, hey, listen, this is not going to be perfect, but our testament, and our fervency to make sure that our relationship is good, as well as our faith. And we have seen it time and time and time again, whereas when we surrender, we then realign, and our life is a lot better. We have that peace, we have that purpose, and we know we're going in the right direction, because He continually, He continually will remind us that we're on the right path. And it's a beautiful thing. But yeah, to your point, it was a pretty thankful and grateful childhood. Lots of love, lots of support, lots of prayers, lots of hugs, and
Polar opposite.
Yeah. So, and that's why it's so important to have it's that dynamic, but then it's also an understanding. Like sometimes I just couldn't understand where she was coming from, and then it was like, what? I really need to understand where she's coming from.
So good.
And our story is not like your story out there, but the one thing you can do is you can continue to focus in on learning your spouse, learning about other people with that open mind.
So good. So good. Well, and my last question for you guys, now knowing a little bit, like people know a little bit about you guys and all the stuff that you guys got going on. What's the next thing? What's the next move? What's the thing that you guys are like, if you can share some of it? Because this podcast, I started this podcast because I wanted to have interesting conversations with good people and learn. And what I realized, we're all working on something all the time.
Yeah.
So whatever you guys can share, like what's that next thing that?
Yeah. Well, I can share with you, I personally am working on Growth Bounce Incorporated. It's a incubator accelerator that helps to grow companies. We do it in a few different ways. We work with technology companies in the educational learning space. We're continuing to build our events. We create experiential events for people, like I told you earlier on in this podcast. And that is exciting. Every event is different. Every event we have people that are making relational breakthroughs, as well as moving the needle forward for the ideas and the visions that they have in their life. So that is super, super fun. And then I'll kick it over to Lacey too. I know she's ready to
cooking.
share.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to add to the events too is, he keeps referring to, like we build relationships, and we're not just talking about like married couples, but one of the biggest things is in business networking, it feels a lot like speed dating, and people are just looking to see if you add value to them, etc. And I mean, if you really think about business, you do business with people that you know, like, and trust. And so our, mission statement of authenticity and being a place of refuge is absolutely spills over into the business world of helping people create authentic, real connections. So that's like really important to us, is making sure that people don't just feel like they come into an event and they're like, okay, let me go find the people that I know here so I can feel comfortable.
Yeah.
But they're actually getting to know people in a real setting. And so we put a lot of effort into that. But what I'm kind of going through personally is, and I know I shared this with you a little while ago, but I've been a coach for the last 10 years, and a full-time coach, so a lot of pouring out, taking on other people's stuff, and that's all I've really done. I actually just recently completely stopped taking on any clients in group or one-on-one, and I've really been building out our membership site. So with Hybrid Athlete Training, which is a fitness company, we have a membership, we have an app, we have customized fitness programs for people based on wherever they're at, and it's really all around helping them become the best version of themselves, right?
What is this called again?
Hybrid Athlete Training. And so
Let's talk about that.
yes, so with that, and then I also shared that I'm going to school right now, and I'm studying so much about, specifically right now, positive psychology and neuroscience of stress and coping. So how stress and coping actually affects our body, it affects our brain, it affects our mind, and then positive psychology, which is, that's a whole podcast in itself. It's amazing. Positive psychology, 99% of psychology throughout history has been focused around alleviating human suffering. And it was actually said that the best that humans can hope for is to alleviate their suffering. Like, that's the best we can hope for in life. And positive psychology is about 15 years old, I believe. And it's really all about the science and the study behind what makes humans thrive and flourish. And obviously a lot of that can be subjective, like what makes you happy, right? But it's broken down into 5, and I'll just make this really quick, but 5 key elements that can be improved to help people overall thrive in their life versus just survive, because the tool sets that you need to thrive are very different than the ones that you've been using to survive. And so if you've been in a constant state of chronic stress and like you're just going, and every day feels like a grind, like you're living in a survival state, right? You're living in a heightened stress state. Your nervous system is probably on overdrive, right? Which has all kinds of negative effects to the systems in your body. But anyways, positive psychology is, P is for positive emotion, so how you actually feel. E is engagement, which is things that get you into flow state, which is employing your strengths. R is relationships, M is meaning, and A is achievement. So basically creating that balance of all those things in your life can help you actually thrive. And to bring it full circle, right now we're actually integrating everything that I've done in the fitness space and nutrition and health, and now adding in everything that I've been doing in the psychology and performance space. So that's kind of coming out over the next few months. We're actually launching something pretty big on January 1st, which has been a long time coming.
It's like an aggregation of all of the education that we've learned, both with our business, relationships, and also fitness and health.
Yeah, it's a resource center for optimal living, basically. And so kind of going back, and then I'm also diving into speaking more. and just doing my art. So it's been a season of getting into convergence for me, with instead of just continuing to do what I've always done, even though it isn't fulfilling me anymore, I've recently made some big shifts to actually jump all in on the things that are fulfilling me and actually building my dreams.
So good. So good. And last question that I ask just everybody here at the end, and it could be anything, but what's something that you're grateful for right now in your current stage where you are in life? Could be anything.
Well, personally, I'm thankful for the deep relationships that I've been able to develop with amazing people in this world, and it is from that position that I continue to create the days and then stack those days into months, and those months into years, with being thankful for continued relationships. And that means, and she knows this to be true, I message people, a lot of people, on a random daily basis, just to see how they're doing. But it's intentional. It's a lot of effort. I mean, and I could just be like, I don't really want to text anyone today, But at the end of the day, that's all I have, because if I do pass away just aimlessly, then I know that I've given it all. I've given a lot of people, effort and support and the right connections and all the things like that. So anyway. A lot of relationships. What about you?
Yeah, I'm very grateful for, since we're talking about it, for the relationship that we've built. It definitely didn't start where it is today, but we've gone through the fire together a lot, actually. One might think we've been in there too many times, but we've definitely grown and learned, and, as we just go about our daily life, it's just so nice. It's such a game changer having that quality relationship at home, that you can go out into the world and have that, you have that stability at home. I'm so grateful for that.
And where can you people find you? Website, Instagram?
Yeah. So my Instagram is Lacey Mystery Bird, Lacey, mystery, and then bird with a Y. And then you can check out all my links on there. That'll show you everything that we're up to in our YouTube channel.
Just go to nathanbird.co. You can see what I'm doing. And then also for her, she's got lacybird.me,
Yes.
which will take you to everything that she's been working on, which is pretty cool.
It's a pretty cool website.
I just thought about this. I'd love to have you guys back, and maybe let's dive deep on some other stuff.
Yeah.
There's a lot here. So
we combine of, it will be interesting. You guys can leave us a comment anywhere you're hearing this, or send me a DM on Instagram, and maybe we can touch deeper on certain things. Like, okay, what do you want to talk about? Like, you said some stuff like, man, I wish I had more time, because I want to go there.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I told you, let's talk about it off mic. Like, those things, that's what fascinates me. That's what gets me my head spinning. Like, ooh, I want to know about that. So let's set that up here next time, and we'll dive deep on some other stuff. So
that'd be fun. Yeah.
Well, thank you for stopping by. being on the
thank you so
podcast.
much. This has been fun.
All right, guys. Well, that's it. Just if you guys have any questions, just make sure you send us a DM. Send them a DM. We're here to help. We're here to grow. So we'll see you guys next time. Peace.